Steve Ditko is one of the masters of comic books. Obviously, he's most known for creating Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, but one of the aspects of his art that I don't think it's talked about enough is the creepiness that is included within his art, even included within his art with Doctor Strange, with the character of Nightmare, or in all of Spider-Man, with the Rogues Gallery, and the way he always had Spider-Man creeping around like a spider, bent in awkward directions. But before all that, Ditko was doing 6 to 8 page strips, kind of in the same style as like the EC comics, but he did them for Marvel Comics. And that's what we're going to talk about today with the 2 volumes of Masters of Suspense by Steve Ditko in these 2 great omnibus editions, collecting his late 50s, early 60s work for Marvel that doesn't include superheroes. So you're going to take a look at these books. I'm going to put them under the microscope. Stay tuned and watch this video until the end. And we're back. My name is Taylor. This is Taylor Talks Comics. Please give the video a thumbs up. Comment down below with your thoughts on Steve Ditko, your favorite Steve Ditko creations or comics. And subscribe if you haven't already. I'm doing 31 days of horror comics, and you're not going to want to miss out on that. Let me move my cameras here. If you have missed out on the videos I've done so far for October, I have a handy-dandy playlist set up in the playlist section of my channel where you can go and catch up on those. It's called 2025 Halloween Horrors. So these are 2 really cool collections that Marvel put out a few years ago. Very similar to the Marvel Monster Buses that Jack Kirby collected, the Jack Kirby Monster comics. They're in a similar fashion, so if you watch that video, you know what I'm going to be talking about, but here we go. Volume 1 is all comics that took place before the Marvel Silver Age. The Marvel Silver Age begins August 1961 with the debut of the Fantastic Four #1. And then Volume 2, all these stories came out after that. So it's kind of a cool before and after the Marvel age of superheroes. And these are wonderfully designed books, just like the Marvel Monster Buses. I don't know if I show the backs off here, but great Steve Ditko artwork. And it's every last Lee and Ditko epic. And then underneath the dust jacket, we have some really cool blown up artwork too. These are truly some of the best designed books Marvel's put out in their omnibus format. I can be critical of Marvel's book design, and these I have no complaints at all. But yeah, you get like that wraparound cover. You can even see like they kind of darkened it for the spine so you can still see the lettering, but it's these 2 giant monsters fighting. And modern fans might see this and recognize the Gilbert Hernandez inspiration that he received from Steve Ditko comics like this in his work, because it kind of looks like a Gilbert Hernandez piece from Love and Rockets. And then here's a giant guy that's just freaking out for his life. Let's go to Volume 1 first. But they remind me of the Monster Buses a lot in how they're carefully designed and packaged, and they're trying to put Ditko artwork everywhere they can. So here's like the title page. It says all written by Stan Lee or Carl Wessler. The artist is Steve Ditko, and most of the lettering is done by Artie Simek. So here's the table of contents. You can see these stories came out in 1956 all the way to 1961 December 1961. So a little bit after the Marvel age begins in Volume 1 here. Here's an introduction by Roger Stern. Roger Stern's a great comic book historian and comic book writer, so it's good to hear from his perspective on this. And then here's the stories and how they begin. And if you compare this to Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby were 2 very starkly different artists. So I think it was kind of magical that Marvel had both of them in their bullpen to start off the Marvel Silver Age. I think Jack Kirby is the most important figure of the Marvel Silver Age, but Steve Ditko, you can't forget about his influence and his importance as well with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and all the Rogues Gallery and villains that he's made on from there on. But these stories and his artwork, again, look so different than Kirby, and I love that kind of variety. You can there's so much detail in his artwork and his splash pages in this era of his drawing that I don't think was always present in his 60s era work, and that could have been maybe an artist more confident in his line or his compositions, not needing some of that chicken fat of backgrounds and things, or it could be someone that was just trying to work faster in the 60s, who knows. But these are all not even 6 to 8 page strips. Some of these are only like 3 or 4 pages, And they're all kind of snappy, one and done stories with a twist ending, very similar to Twilight Zone or the EC Comics formula, the recipe. That's kind of the recipe of comics back then, was these anthologies where you get like Strange Worlds, and within that issue you'll get 3 or 4 stories from a bunch of different artists. This book includes just the Steve Ditko stories of all those books, including any covers that he did. For some reason, I don't know what it is, but I love the design of the deep sea diver costume. So anytime I see a story that includes that, I'm sold. So if you want to find a way to get Taylor sold on a comic book, show me a cover that has that deep sea diver costume in it, and I'll instantly be interested in that story. But yeah, so this is, again, similar to the similar influences that Steve Ditko was pulling from for his stories that Jack Kirby was pulling from. I love this too, like this surreal artwork. It reminds me a lot of like Richard Case, Grant Morrison era Doom Patrol. I don't know if that's, I know Grant Morrison was a huge reader of comics of the Silver Age, so I don't know if that was what he pulled from, or what they pulled from when they were doing some Doom Patrol writing for Richard Case to draw, or what, but that just reminded me of that, and also maybe some Doctor Strange stuff that Ditko would later do. But yeah, a lot of the same things that Kirby was pulling from, like the atomic age of radiation and things, and how that's going to create these monsters and mutated people, and how it's going to affect our world if we continue to do nuclear testing on our own country, and also the space age, and if we're going to see people from other planets come in and visit Earth and that kind of thing. This is or is that I know this image is from somewhere. Oh, the back cover of the dust jacket. I saw the end of the world. This guy's sweating and freaking out. And I just love the different tropes, especially if you read this and read the Monster Bus. You get a really good comparison of Ditko and Kirby's artwork, and how they'd still do similar things. Like they'd still have like the guy facing the camera in some sort of like duress to show like whatever he's looking at the reader can't see, and they're just looking through his emotions, what your imagination can put together. Kirby would do similar things too, but they still had different vibes with it. And there's a lot of zip-a-tone that Ditko would use in this era as well with his artwork. But yeah, just real snappy stories. These was also passed during the Comics Code Authority being a thing, so you're not going to see anything that's like grotesque or overly overly bloody or gory or anything like that. Let's get to the back matter of Volume 1 here. We get some original art pages by Ditko, which I've not seen a lot of original art pages from Ditko. I'm excited to get the artist edition, the Spider-Man Ditko artist edition that's coming out from Act 4 next year. I do have this issue. I should have brought that out. I have this single issue with this cover. This is a cover that Ditko did in 1993, but it collects some of the old stories within this book. And one of them was recolored. I should do a video on that one because it's a really kind of interesting idea. The Creatures Run Amok, Monster Menace. So these were new covers, but they were collecting reprinted stories. And those stories were a lot of what we've seen with Omnibus. And then here's I asked Ditko if he liked to comment on his early monster work. I'm expecting something soon. And Ditko just throws an inkwell at the door to tell him to shut up. Steve Ditko did that piece for a Monster Menace number 3 in 1993. And Steve Ditko famously, there's only like 3 or 4 pictures of him that exist on Earth. So yeah, this is the Volume 2, and this collects all of the Silver Age stuff, Silver Age era of these same kind of suspense stories. So they start in December of 1961, and they go all the way to 1963. So, and P. Cray Russell does the introduction for this one, and it's really interesting to see his perspective on these stories. But yeah, just a lot of fun. These are great bedside table books, as I refer to these anthologies a lot, because it's good just before bed to pick one of these books up and read a few stories and then put it down, and you just read them that way. I don't expect anyone to sit here and binge read all of this Omnibus in one sitting, because it's not that kind of story. It's a lot of different stories that you want to read a couple of them and let them wash over you for, you know, a day or two, and then read some more. Let's get to the back matter of volume 2 here. Here's some more original art pages. So all of these were provided by Heritage Auctions, I think. But just cool to see some original art of Ditko. And then in the back here we have a Dan Brereton cover that was on the Amazing Fantasy Omnibus. So get that in there as well. But yeah, really fun books. Can't recommend them enough. Let me know in the comments what your favorite Steve Ditko comics are, or if you like these monster omnibuses, or what other kind of collections you'd like of this nature. I really want to see a Jack Kirby Western omnibus put together. Because I also have his War and Romance omnibus, which is great. But I'd like to see a Jack Kirby Westerns put out. He did do enough Western comics for one full volume. But I just love these kind of collections. There's a great way to preserve comic book history. So write down in the comments what your favorite Ditko comics, or what you would want to see in this kind of format of an omnibus from Marvel. Anything to do with comics, I'll talk to you down there. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'm doing 31 days of horror comics. You don't want to miss out on any of those. And everyone, keep talking comics.